The Umbrella Academy is rife with characters and plotlines that could be expanded into numerous spin-off series, and Netflix has made noise about making the show into a wider franchise. Steve Blackman, the Umbrella Academy's showrunner, has gone on record saying that he is open to the idea based on fan demand. "If there's an appetite," he said, "I think the actors would be up for it, we would all be up for it because we love working together." After the Umbrella Academy Season 4, there is plenty of room to focus on smaller sets of characters. The Umbrella Academy comic book series has already generated its own spin-offs with 4 short stories. Mon Dieu features Five and Klaus, but the past ain't through with you has Klaus, Allison, and Luther. Anywhere But Here shows Sir Reginald Hargreaves, Diego, and Vanya, and Safe Sound featuring Diego. Dark Horse Comics has the right idea in digging deeper with these stories, and it looks like Netflix will follow suit. There is endless material to turn the Umbrella Academy into Netflix's biggest franchise yet by doing in-depth explorations of its characters. Diego Lila. Much could be done with a limited series of Diego and Lila. In the Umbrella Academy's Season 2, they meet in a psychiatric facility and immediately form a bond. Their seemingly toxic relationship is somehow endearing, and the constant bickering and bantering don't disguise the fact that they care deeply for one another. With Lila being pregnant at the end of Season 3, their story could go in many different directions. Diego, Lila, and unnamed child could venture off and live as a family who encounters a steady stream of literal comic book villains. Unnamed child will have the powers of both parents and, in addition, she would have the power of moving back and forth in her aging, which would make her very useful to her parents as they all fend off bad guys. The time on the Umbrella Academy that Diego and Lila spent in the psychiatric hospital could also be further explored. After their escape, they would have various adventures, as, all the while, they would be on the run from the Swedes. Luther Sloan. This Umbrella Academy couple deserves a happy ending, but happy endings don't make for good television. Believing that Sloan is dead, Luther would return to the moon, yet this time, there would be a defined threat of aliens from planets previously unknown wishing to co-opt Earth for their purposes. Luther again becomes severely depressed on the moon. Five, in a cameo, shows up with Sloan. Head figured out how to jump extremely long distances, and after locating Sloan in an alternate timeline, which may or may not initiate a new chaos, Five brings her to the moon to be with Luther. Together Luther and Sloan fight against the alien threat. Five. The Commission. In Season 3 of the Umbrella Academy, when Five has the shocking revelation that he was the founder of the Commission, he meets a much older version of himself. This could lead to a spin-off in which Five, as the founder of the Commission, encounters many versions of himself from different timelines, some of whom are radically different from him. He may encounter Five the dog, or Five the young girl, or Five the talking snake, or Five the Sasquatch, or Five the sea slug, or Five the tallest man on Earth. Each of these scenarios would lead to confusion and conflict that Five has to resolve with the aid of Dolores, his mannequin who has acquired powers of her own. Victor Sissy. An exploration of the 10-year gap in Victor's story, or any of the Umbrellas for that matter, could be explored. His early years when Sir Reginald muted his powers, and the time he spent away from the Academy leave a lot of room for story arcs. Victor could, in a different timeline, reunite with a Sissy who did not have cancer or an abusive husband in tow. Victor could also enlist Klaus to aid him in restoring Sissy's son Harlan, who has powers similar to Victor's. Victor and Harlan could then team up to help neurodivergent and non-heterosexual people achieve justice. Klaus' sarcastic hedonism and strong tendency to self-medicate make him an interesting and somewhat tragic character. His relationship with Ben is relatively functional within the vastly dysfunctional Hargreaves family. In The Umbrella Academy spin-off, Ben and Klaus could solve mysteries in which Ben's summoned octopus arms and Klaus' ability to interact with the dead are beneficial. The vibe could be supernatural detective stories, and would further show the viewer the relationship between Klaus and Ben. Klaus prequel based on You Look Like Death. You Look Like Death is a comic book spin-off that looks at Klaus' biggest drug binge. Set 10 years before the Umbrella Academy, Klaus has been kicked out of the family, and his allowance cut off. With a flamboyant bravado and bull-headed indifference that comes with being 18, he heads to Hollywood where he steals the drug stash of a vampire chimp drug lord named Shivers, and hijinks ensue. In a Klaus prequel, after his adventures in Hollywood, Klaus would travel the world: Rio de Janeiro, Monte Carlo, Kathmandu, Casablanca, Hong Kong, in an effort to escape Shivers, who has put a price on his head. Along the way, he'd get himself into trouble because that's what Klaus does. Hazel Cha-Cha Hazel and Cha-Cha are the lethal timeline hitmen of the Commission. Dark Horse Comics has already created a one-off comic called Hazel and Cha-Cha Save Christmas, in which they fight against a plot to discredit Christmas. In an Umbrella Academy Netflix spin-off, they could continue their work in a timeline different from the one in which they died. They would then report to Five, who would send them on oddball missions. There are countless ways that Netflix could spin off from the Umbrella Academy. The 7 Hargreaves children are interesting in their own right, and spin-off series would further explore smaller groups of them. The Sparrows are not perhaps as well-known yet and wouldn't at this time warrant shows of their own, though in the future, stories involving a creative mix of Umbrella Academy siblings and those from the Sparrow Academy could be well worth watching. Netflix success with its other spin-offs and hype surrounding yet-to-be-released series such as Money Heists Berlin and The Witcher's Witcher, Blood Origin, paved the way for the Umbrella Academy spin-offs to be wildly popular.
With a gentle touch, you tell me what all love I have to share. It must be 'cause you are what I all knew. Only you do know, you do know, you do know. Only you do know the courage. Still moving, still sad, thought to know what went wrong. Have sat there low out of flow in one if you could bring them down. If